both summer and fall semesters. We offer 35 majors distributed through 6 colleges. So our College of Engineering, a little more than half of all students who graduate from Georgia Tech complete an engineering degree. But we also have the College of Computing, the College of Design, the Scheller College of Business, the College of Sciences, and the Ivan Allen College of Liberal Arts. Now, you may say that for 15,000 undergraduates, 35 majors is not a lot, and that is true. But what we do say at Georgia Tech is what we do very well, and what we do very well is offer a very specific technology-focused curriculum across all of our departments and majors. No matter what it is you do study, be it mechanical engineering, biology, or yes, even German or history, you will receive a Bachelor of Science degree. That is the only degree that we offer on the undergraduate level, which again shows our commitment to a science and technological based education. That means that all of our majors will be required to complete a relatively similar sequence of math and science coursework. All 35 of these majors will be required to complete at least one computer science or coding course before completion of the degree. A little bit about our retention rate, which we are very proud of. It's a few decimal points higher than 97%, but what that means is that from first year to second year, we are retaining 97% of our students. The national average is around the low to mid 70s, so we are really doing better than just about anyone of ensuring that our students are successful. And we think that that speaks not only to the great job that we do in the Office of Undergraduate Admission of identifying students who we feel will be successful, but it also reflects the hard work that students do put in once they are on campus to be successful. And we are graduating at 6-year graduation rate about 85 to 88% of our students. So the vast majority of people who do begin at Georgia Tech will complete a Georgia Tech degree. And then this number here gives a little insight about our class size. It's often a concern. Generally speaking, the higher you get into your coursework, the smaller your classes will be. So, of course, in your freshman survey courses, U.S. history and calculus and chemistry and physics and computer science, those will be relatively large courses. Once you get into 3,000 or 4,000 level courses, you will have a smaller experience. And even in those large courses, we do have some things in place to give you still a little bit of a small class experience. And one of those examples is recitation, which you will have for several courses, such as calculus or computer science. And those are smaller breakout sessions, which will be 20 to 25, maybe 30 students. Those are led by graduate students or upper level undergraduate students. And in recitation, that's really your chance to have any questions answered, if you have specific tests or quiz or homework issues, to get those addressed in a smaller setting. As well, all professors who do teach here are required to hold weekly office hours, and that just gives you another opportunity if you have any concerns or issues to get one-on-one time with your instructor so that you can maximize your success in all of your courses. And the applied academics, really, yes, college is about going and finding yourself and growing as a person and learning to think, but it is really largely about equipping you with a set of skills and knowledge that are in demand so that you can graduate and get a job and you don't have to move back home with mom and dad. Now, we are ensuring that our students are successful, and part of that is the applied academic experience, meaning taking what they are learning in the classroom and applying it to what they will be doing once they complete their experience here at Georgia Tech. Foremost on that is our co-op and internship program. Our Center for Career Discovery and Development, which we call for short C2D2, is on the other side of this building on the first floor. They are tasked with equipping students with the tools that they need to be successful in the marketplace. So our co-op program is quite popular. It is a great way to earn money, so we'll get to the tuition and fees in a few slides, and especially for you out-of-state parents, it kind of sucks all of the air out of the room. But co-oping is a great way to make money because all of these co-op positions are paid anywhere from $15 an hour on up to 18, 20, 25, or even more based on your experience and number of terms. You are committing with the co-op program to work in 3 semesters with a company, alternating, meaning you may co-op in the summer, classes in the fall, co-op in the spring until you've completed 3 work semesters. You are not paying tuition while you're co-oping, so that gives you the opportunity to save money for when you are back on campus taking classes, and you are getting real work experience. So you are not getting coffee and donuts for your boss or making copies. You are actively engaged in projects so that you can see how what you're learning in the classroom will relate to your life after Georgia Tech. And co-oping will add a little bit of time to your experience. You may graduate in 5.5 or 5 years, but the benefit is that you have a year of work experience, and all other things being equal, that will make you a more competitive applicant in the job marketplace. And the vast majority of students who do complete the co-op program will receive a job offer from that company upon graduation. There are co-op opportunities available here in Atlanta, in which case you could still live on campus. There are co-op opportunities throughout Georgia, throughout the country, and there are even some work abroad opportunities available for students in certain cases. You may not want the structure of the co-op program, so we do offer internships. About 85% or so of internships are paid, but they give you flexibility of maybe working part-time so you can take classes, or working only in summer, or working with a few different firms. But the aim is still to give you some relevant and real work experience so that you are equipped with that when you go out into the marketplace. And then lastly, you see that over half of our undergraduates do graduate with an international experience. So we have around 120 different study abroad programs on 6 continents, and they are available for all majors. So no matter what it is that you study, there is a study abroad program available for you. And it sounds counterintuitive, but for you out-of-state residents, studying abroad is usually going to be cheaper than taking courses on campus. And the reason for that is that study abroad tuition and fees are far closer to in-state tuition than out-of-state tuition. So that is a way that for 1 or 2 semesters, if you choose to study abroad, an out-of-state student could save a little bit of money. Questions?
You said, I thought I heard you say that 85% of the students graduate in 6 years.
Correct.
So is that what you put based on the co-op, that the average
Right.
graduation?
I mean, our 4-year graduation rate is about 42%, but because of studying abroad and specifically the co-op program, most students are going to take more than 4 years, but we are still graduating a pretty big chunk, most and close to all of students who do matriculate. Other questions? Talk a little bit about Atlanta. If you aren't from Atlanta, or maybe if you are from the surrounding area and are only familiar with Georgia Tech from driving by, on the highway, you will see when you go out on the tour today that Georgia Tech does have a campus. So it's a dedicated campus here in Midtown Atlanta, meaning that you will have a traditional campus experience, much as you may expect in a smaller college town somewhere in the United States. But all of that happens within the backdrop of a large and dynamic and thriving urban space. And those are great things if you're looking for a job, because you see that there are many Fortune 500 and 1,000 companies who do have a presence here in town. They know Georgia Tech and actively come here to campus and are in fact in the basement of this building interviewing students at this very moment for co-ops and internships and jobs after college. Many of you who have traveled from out of state probably flew through Hartsfield, which I think is great, and I'm kind of spoiled growing up here in Atlanta because I do travel quite a bit, and I don't really know what a connecting flight is because there are so many Delta flights in and out of Hartsfield that you can get pretty much anywhere that you want to go with relative ease. And an initiative that we do push here at Georgia Tech through our vertically integrated program and CreateX is fostering an incubator for entrepreneurship. So if that is something that you're interested in, Tech Square, which you will not see on the tour, but it's on the other side of the highway, just a little bit north of us, does house those incubators and is something that we really want to make apparent for people who may be interested in an experience here at Georgia Tech. And then just from the cultural aspect of living in a large, thriving urban space, if you live around Midtown, Atlanta is walkable. Far outside of that, I would argue with that ranking there myself. But it is possible. I don't own a car. I commute to work via MARTA, and it's a pretty great experience for me. If you're into sports, and certainly Atlanta has, we are about at the halfway point of our info session, in terms of time as well as content. But before we move on, I will take this time to pause for any lingering questions. Yes. So we don't offer double majors here, frankly, because graduating from Georgia Tech with one bachelor's degree is enough of a challenge. But it's not unheard of that students will pursue a second undergraduate major, which means that you actually will graduate with 2 bachelor's degrees rather than a double major. So that is possible. It's a little easier for some majors than others. And it's not unheard of for people to pursue 2 bachelor's degrees, but it's definitely not very common. Other questions? Georgia Tech, you do select a major when you are admitted to Georgia Tech. We don't admit by major. You are admitted to Georgia Tech for the major that you chose. So you do not declare a major at any point. If you apply mechanical engineering and you are admitted, that is your major the moment you set foot on campus.
So you have no leeway of changing?
No, we do offer major changes. Generally, you get 1 freebie, but we are changing the process now to allow admitted students to change their major within a specific window before they do matriculate to student. And then beyond that, you get 1 free major change, but you would only be eligible for that after the very drop day of fall semester, which means essentially you would be locked into your major for 1 semester before you can change. Yes. So we are part of the ACC Division I. So that's football, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, swimming and diving, track and field, tennis, golf. I'm probably missing a handful, but we do participate in quite a few sports for both men and women. Then we do also have club sports teams, which are not NCAA, but you would play, for instance, in soccer or rowing or lacrosse against students from other colleges. And we have a very robust intramural sports team. No, it's not. The question is it easier or harder to be admitted based on the major? No, and the reason is, we don't admit by major, but we do look at the student's application through the lens of the major that they selected. So if I'm looking at your transcript and I see that you've taken BC Calculus and Multivariable Calculus and AP Physics C and AP Chemistry, and your activities are first robotics and coding club and all these other things, and then you list, history as your entering major, I'm probably going to look at that askance and say, what is this person doing? So the short answer is no, it's not easier because we are looking at your application through the lens of the major that you selected. Other questions before I move on? Okay, so the first half of the presentation was on our history and campus culture. The last half is really looking at the application review process, and that is why most of you all are here. Georgia Tech is a selective institution, and what that means is that year in and year out, we have far more applications from well-qualified students than we have room to accommodate in our incoming first-year class. And for that reason, we use a holistic process, which means that we are looking at your existence beyond your test scores and your GPA and your grades. We are looking at what you're doing both inside and outside of the classroom. We are anticipating, and last year we had about a 20% admit rate. We are looking at a 20%, maybe a little below that admit rate this year. And what that means is that most of you who do apply to Georgia Tech as first-year students will not be admitted. And I don't say that to discourage you or to scare you or to frighten you off. But my reasoning is twofold. First, with a 20% admit rate, you want to be as thorough as possible in preparing your application and do everything that you can to present yourself in the best way possible. My second reason for highlighting that is that you all as students and parents and teachers and counselors and family and friends, enemies, will take your acceptance or rejection from a college as somehow a reflection on your character or how hard you worked in high school or how smart you are, and that's simply not the case. If we're only taking 1 in 5 students who apply, that means that we are going to be, unfortunately, denying a number of really good students who apply. Yes?
How would you say that first robotics?
For First Robotics peppers applications like snowflakes in Minnesota. So it's something that we look at, but so many students who are applying to Georgia Tech are doing robotics that, you know, if you're like competing on a national level or something like that, it may give you a little bit of a bump, but that's one of the things that, not to say we expect to see it, but we see it so much that it's not really surprising to us when we do find it. So, first and foremost, what we are looking at is your academic preparation, and what we are asking ourselves is, has this student taken the most challenging and rigorous curriculum available to him or her? We will know that because we get your transcript, and along with the transcript comes a school report. We want to see that within the context of your high school, you are taking the most challenging courses and doing well in them. Usually that means some mix of advanced placement, international baccalaureate, and dual enrollment coursework. But we are not comparing you to other schools, we're not comparing you to other students from other states, because ultimately where you attend school is not your choice, it is your parents' decision. So we won't hold it against you if your school only offers 4 AP classes. We are looking at you through the context of your high school and what is offered. Believe it or not, standardized testing is a small part of our application review process. Yeah.
You mentioned dual enrollment classes. So how on the application does a dual enrollment class compare to basic?
You know, ultimately, especially with the expansion of dual enrollment within the state of Georgia, we're not really going to be looking at dual enrollment any differently. You know, truth be told, AP is standardized, so we know what you're learning, but we're not holding dual enrollment against you. The only caveat I would say is that, you know, if you're taking dual enrollment pre-calculus, dual enrollment in college algebra, those are not really going to stand out to us. If you're taking dual enrollment coursework, you want to make sure that you are matching or exceeding what is available to you at your school through the AP curriculum. So, standardized testing, again, is a pretty small part, believe it or not. We do require test scores. You can self-report SAT or ACT scores, and we will use those in rendering our decision. If you are admitted to Georgia Tech and choose to enroll, you will be required to send official score reports to us, but we're trying to save you a little bit of money on the front end by not requiring official scores at the point of application. You can include AP scores self-reported or SAT 2 subject scores, or maybe less commonly IB scores, and we will use those in the application review process, but you are not necessarily hurting yourself if you don't include them. Now, we do not stop here. I cannot stress this enough. Please do not expect to sail through the admission process with great test scores and great grades. Could we fill our incoming class with people who have scored a perfect 800 on the math portion of the SAT? Yes, and a few times over. That is why for every applicant, no matter when you apply, early action or regular decision, every applicant is going to be graded on their contribution to community as well as the personal essays. Yes? Okay.
Early action, if we're only focusing on like standardized testing and GPA.
No. We use a holistic review process for both application deadlines. If you are competitive here, you will be competitive here. If you are not competitive here, you will not be competitive here. But we do use the holistic process for all 37,000 applications that we've received. Yes?
Do you use any minimum threshold for the academic preparation and standardizing testing?
Nothing other than what the Georgia Board of Regents requires for research institutions in the state.
Okay.
So, contribution to community, we are asking you about everything constructive that you're doing outside of the classroom. So this could be clubs at school, it could be religious activity or civic involvement, volunteer service inside or outside of school. It could be a part-time job that you have. You may have some familial responsibility. I have Southeast Georgia is my territory, and so it is not uncommon for me to see students who are working 20 to 30 hours a week on their parents' farm for no pay. Or you may drive your sister or your brother to ballet or soccer or piano practice. Or you may drive them to or from school. All of those are ways that you are constructively spending your time, so please be sure to give us as much context. Give us how much time you are spending doing these activities. Please give us as much detail as possible. I do not know what the Rocking Chair Club is. I don't know what the Clown Shoes Club is. I know what FIRST Robotics is, but if you were doing something, a leadership position in FIRST Robotics, or if you were competing on a national level, it is up to you to mention that and give us as much detail as possible. With us taking in close to 40,000 applications, we don't have the resources, and no offense, the inclination to interview 40,000 people. So think of your personal essay as the closest thing that you will get to an interview with us. While I am delighted that you've decided to spend your morning with me, the fact that you have visited Georgia Tech will have no bearing on your admission decision. Your essay will, though. For the adults in the room, you can think of it as an elevator pitch, right? You get about 1,000 words to present some picture or piece or side or part of you that we can't otherwise see on the application. For that reason, I do recommend that you don't spend your essay telling me how good of a student that you are, because we will see that otherwise. I cannot tell you what to write about. You are all unique snowflakes with likes and dislikes and strengths and weaknesses and hopes and dreams and fears. But keep in mind, on the low end, and I have one of the smallest volunteer territories in the office, and I processed about 550 applications. Other full-time counselors are more on the line of 1,500, 2,000, or even 2,500, as Ashley Brookshire, our West Coast rep, reads. In reading that many applications, we will see a lot of themes that come up quite regularly. It is great that you have chosen to go out in the world on a mission trip and to help the deity of your choice. But after reading 19 essays about someone's mission trip to Guatemala, they all sort of just run together. I can't tell you what to write about, but think about that. And you want to present yourself in some way that is going to stand out to us in a good way. Because there are a handful of essays. Now, there are some essays we pass around the office for not good reasons. But then there are a handful of essays that I look at and say, wow, this is a really compelling essay. I want to know more about this person and I want to see them on campus. You want your essay to be one of those. Yes?
Can you give an example?
So back when I had a larger file territory and I handled Tennessee, there was a young man who wrote his essay about really hating mayonnaise, which is like, a really mundane sort of topic, but it was very amusing to me and it was very well written, and it was something that I say, that's a really good essay. So think about that. We're not asking about you taking a bullet for the president or saving a beached whale. We just want you to speak to us so that we can hear your voice in a way that's going to be compelling to us.
Thank you for the example.
Uh-huh.
Would you say it's okay to maybe be a little poetic? Or,
I mean, it depends on the poem. Some,
not like to write like poetry like you recite, but like take an essay, but instead of it being, maybe kind of dry.
I mean, it could be, and as I say, I've read great essays that are that way, and then I've read crappy essays that are that way. So it's not so much the form that you want to just present yourself. Remember, I don't read a lot of apps, but think about the full-time counselor that's sitting there for 6 hours a day, and they get to their 47th application of the day. They read it, and they say, wow, this is a really good essay.
I guess what I'm saying is, do you look at content as well as structure and form?
Maybe. I mean, it's hard to answer that because we do use a holistic process. I can't say that one data point is going to help your chances any more than the other. I know that's not a very fulfilling answer, but it's my fallback because it's true. Yes?
Continuation of this question, actually. If someone writes an essay about, I don't know, the shape of drops of water, and it says nothing about themselves, it's just, let's say it's a good literature piece, but says nothing about their history, their childhood, nothing about themselves, is that a minus for the essay, or?
Again, because it's holistic, I can't say yes or no. We're looking at all of these things together and making those decisions. My, overarching point is to think about these essays. The questions are already out for next year. I am a former high school teacher, and I can tell you When you do an assignment, a big assignment the day before it's due, it is very, very apparent. So do not let the first time you look at the application be October 15th at 10 p.m. and the application closes at October 15th at midnight. Take time because you only get one chance to present yourself in the best light. Now, these are the required portions. Recommendations, 999 times out of 1,000, recommendations are completely useless to us. They tell us glowing things about you that are probably true, but they are things that we already can see elsewhere in your application. However, if you do want to submit recommendations to us, we will take one from your teacher or a teacher who's had you in the classroom and one from a school counselor. Believe it or not, every year, especially with homeschool, I get unsolicited recommendations that parents have written for their children. Those are not helpful to us, but we will take 2 recommendations, one from your teacher and one from your counselor. Interview for non-native English speakers. If this applies to anyone, if you have taken, it's really for students who have done high school. English is not their first language, and they have completed high school outside of the United States. It is not a requirement, but we do recommend it. Institutional fit is really a nebulous sort of umbrella term for all of the decisions that are made at a far, far higher level than Larry, the information systems coordinator in the Office of Undergraduate Admission, as to how the incoming class will be filled. You have no control over this. I have no control over this. And for that reason, I recommend that you don't worry about it. An example would be our in-state versus out-of-state balance. You can't help it if you're in-state or out-of-state. You have no control over that. What I would concern myself with is the things that you still do have are the things that you still do have agency over, which are here. This is our review process that we use for all applications. We do recommend applying early action because that is the deadline for the scant few merit-based scholarships that are offered to students. If you apply October 15th, you could get 1 of 3 decisions on January 1. Not January 1, but mid-January. I think it was January 12th this year. You could be admitted outright, which is great. You could be denied outright, which is also great, though it may not seem like it at the time. And you could be deferred. Being deferred is not a bad thing. It just means that we don't have enough information to render a decision. We will roll you into the regular decision pool. We will review you within the context of the full applicant pool, and you will receive your decision in mid-March. We do use both the coalition and the common application. We have no preference for one or the other, but please don't fill out both because that causes a lot of problems for us on the back end of things. Questions about our application review process? Yes? Mm-hmm. I mean, more than that, the odds of it being read are slim to nil just because of the large volume of applications that we have to review. And I'll be honest, I often don't read the recommendation letter anyway because it's not necessary for me to make a decision whether to admit or deny someone. We do look at them though sometimes if I have a question. So sure, if you want to submit more than those 2, you can. They may get read, they may not get read. Other questions? Yes.
Is there a specific essay for the school, or can you use like just the Common?
We use the Common App main prompt. You choose one of those, and then this year, Georgia Tech specific prompts are why do you want to study what you want to study at Georgia Tech, and the second one was to describe your typical day, which personally I don't think is the best essay prompt, but no one asked me, so I just didn't think that it yielded really good answers, so hopefully we're working on something new for next year. Other questions? Okay, so I'll spoil the surprise. Do not expect any merit-based scholarships if you are admitted to Georgia Tech. Because of the high caliber of incoming students, it's difficult to give scholarships without giving one to everyone. Our premier merit-based scholarship is the Stamps President Scholarship. It is offered, however, to around 50 students per year out of 7,000 to 8,000 that we admit. So it is very unlikely that any of you will be named Stamps President Scholars, but you might be. I don't know anything about you other than where a few of you are from. All you do is submit your application for the 15th, and you will be automatically considered for that. Beyond that, there is need-based aid. There will be loans, as well as work study and non-work study jobs available on campus. We do also always recommend that you check for outside scholarships. There are so many of them. They may not be huge, $500 here, $1,000 there, $2,500 there. It starts to add up. And some of these scholarships are not getting a lot of people to apply for them. So your odds are pretty good in many cases. So do certainly check with outside scholarships. I already mentioned study abroad opportunities. Research participation could be for credit or it could be for pay. You won't be making a lot of money, but it will be a little bit to help offset your living expenses. And then you see our tuition and fees here, which are set for the next year to give you an idea of what it costs to attend. However, at Georgia Tech, we speak not so much about the cost of attendance, but more the value. So what am I getting for what I am paying in my investment? And certainly by all metrics, Georgia Tech graduates are doing pretty well in rationalizing why you may be taking out a loan here or there to complete your education. So, with that, my part is done. Thank you so much. I did go to Georgia Tech. However, you all were in diapers, maybe not even born when I started as a freshman here in the year 2000. So my experience is a little dated, which is why we do have tour guides. If I can brag on them for a little bit, they are doing this as volunteers. So they are not getting paid. They are just that passionate about Georgia Tech. They are all brilliant, and we really appreciate them. So I am going to pass you off to them, and they are going to split you up